The international break brings with it the opportunity to talk about some different types of topics, especially with news not exactly forthcoming every single day. So, in this morning's show, I'm going to invite you listeners to jump onto the episode if you happen to be listening live to talk about a problem that is very much at the forefront of Arsenal fans' minds. This is the Arsenal news slash phone in show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show. Joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you as always for joining me and making this a part of your morning routines. Now, I am taking a little bit of a risk as always when doing these shows at this specific time of the day for doing a phone in. I understand that 8 a.m. here in the UK, and certainly not any reasonable hour in the western parts of the world as well, isn't the most, well, what's the words? I suppose busiest, most awake period of the day. So do bear with. I'm hoping that we do get some callers that are perhaps more awake than I am even, and perhaps in eastern parts of the world as well, going to be joining in and giving their thoughts on a problem that I think is dominating a lot of the fan discussion at the moment. We've noticed, I think, from the perspective of plenty of Arsenal supporters, something of a dip in kind of how I think people are looking, how people are feeling about the atmosphere. I read you a tweet, of course, from a friend of the show, Rory Talks Football, which described the PSG Emirates atmosphere as unacceptable last week. And that led to a kind of a broader discussion about things. And I've got some slides I'm going to run through first. But if you would like to come on to the show, you are very much more than welcome to. I have left a link to do so in the description. I'll also be posting it regularly into the chat box if you would like to join. You need to be over the age of 18. That must be always put forwards. And obviously you need to have a webcam. You won't be able to come onto the show unless indeed that webcam is active. If you want to use the StreamYard app, that does give you the best kind of way of connecting and usually solves any technical issues that people might be having over joining in any other fashion. So bear all of that in mind. Often what we do have is people join in and don't put their cameras on, and then I can't get you on the show because that's not how it works. But if you've got thoughts on this topic, please do phone in. Please do give your thoughts. Otherwise, it's just going to be me rambling and only representing one side of the argument as well, or one side of the opinion. And of course, there might be some emotive topics in this as well that are discussed. Good morning to those joining us, though, in the chat box. Aidan, Martin, Damien, Rowan, Steve, Tom, Oliver, Dave, Stevie, Shiv, Barry, Paul. We've got James and Olawale. We've got Dylan, Arthur, Grantley Poos, PJ, Mark, NSW, Temmie, Cream. Thank you to you all for tuning in. It is incredibly appreciated. So, without further ado, let's jump into today's slides before we get some of the people that hopefully are going to be calling in very, very shortly. So these atmosphere issues that I think for a degree have been dominating the discussion for a little while. We've seen, obviously, moans about ticketing. We've seen moans about the noise not being electric enough. The PSG supporters on that night last Tuesday were very impressive indeed, as have the majority, if not all, of the European games that I've been to and witnessed the away fans in very strong voice. I remember going to Lens in last season's Champions League group stage, and the home atmosphere in that ground was probably the best I've ever experienced. But I've also gone to other English grounds as well, such as Newcastle or Selhurst Park, and experienced also some amazing atmospheres. Yet I've gone to places like Anfield, which is, known as having this amazing kind of feel about it. Yet when the whistle kicks off and You'll Never Walk Alone is finished, that atmosphere also dies down. Is this an English thing? Is it something to do with our culture of fandom? It's just not as kind of, I suppose, electric as you find when going to some European grounds abroad. I want to get your thoughts on this and plenty more as well. There's also this element of the tourist fan, which we talk about quite a lot on the channel, and how tourist fans get blamed a lot for the atmosphere. I've spoken to some people who send me messages saying that, they can't go 1 week, and they hear from people that sit in their seats that their seat was taken by somebody that didn't know all of the songs or was on their phone throughout the game. And I hear these stories far more often than I can believe are really real, especially when you consider the fact that 45,000 around that figure, just under, are season ticket holders as well on the majority of games. So at least tens of thousands of fans who are season ticket holders are indeed at these games and contributing or not contributing to the atmosphere. And then, of course, there's the ticket exchange, which is also another big factor, because this was sent to me yesterday by one of the listeners. This image, if you're listening on audio platforms, I'll just describe it for you. This yesterday was the ticket exchange for supporters for the Shakhtar Donetsk game that were unsuccessful in the ballot. And when they logged onto the ticket exchange, all those blue areas you can see on that, which is constituting, large areas of the club level, but mainly significantly large portions of the upper stands, were available for purchase for those people that had missed out on the ballot. And of course, for the moment, you can only enter the ballot if you did. Sorry, you can only enter the ticket exchange if you were unsuccessful in the ballot. So there is also a feel that the demand for tickets is perhaps going down, or of course, season ticket holders or people that were successful in the ballot but can no longer go were putting their tickets back up on the exchange. Arsenal, of course, have created incentives and in some ways kind of deterrence, if you like, from supporters who are season ticket holders just not putting their ticket up on the exchange. If you don't put your ticket up on the exchange as a season ticket holder and you don't attend after so many times, you will lose your season ticket. And of course, the final element of all of this is the ballot system. And the ballot system that was introduced last year in a way of trying to tackle ticket touting and to also make it much fairer for supporters to get their hands on tickets. But at the same time, a lot of people who were getting tickets very recently don't feel like the system is fair. And you can see from some of the tweets on the screen there I've taken from just a quick search on social media this morning that it is being criticized rather heavily. So I want to hear from you, and I want to hear your thoughts. And in part 2, which is coming in just a couple of minutes, we're going to be going to some of these calls, and I want to hear people's opinions on this. But before we go to part 2, I do, of course, as always, need to remind you to go and check out NordVPN. Perhaps you yourself are planning on being something of a tourist and traveling around the world and would like to use a VPN service. Well, there is, of course, one to choose, and that is Nord. So make sure you go to nordvpn.com/Gooner to get yourself that significant discount off a 1 or a 2-year plan. If you're using a public Wi-Fi, perhaps in a cafe or somewhere like that, it's a really dangerous place in the digital age of 2024, and a VPN is the way in which to block those people that want to steal your data from stealing it. So please make sure you head over to Nord and check that one out. And of course, there is still this fantastic prize on offer for you to win, courtesy of Football Prizes, a signed and framed dual Gilberto and Patrick Vieira shirt. It was going fast, so I imagine it'll be selling out, if not already, very quick. Link for that, of course, is down in the description. Well, let's go to part 2 and your calls right after this. Okay, this is part 2 of the show where we tackle your questions and more in part 2. Earl has jumped in first, so we're going to go to Earl now. Earl, how you doing, mate? You good? You well? Take yourself off mute, and I'll be able to
Hello?
hear what you
Can you hear me now?
mate.
Yeah.
I can hear you, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. You?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. What compelled you to ring in on this topic?
Well, basically, it's like I'm watching more on TV because I don't have a season ticket, and it is hard to get a ticket. And you can tell the atmosphere is not as lively as it was last season. Last season, you can feel the vibe through the TV.
Yeah.
And the way we're playing maybe has something to do with it.
Okay, so you put more down to the performances. What would make you say that?
I think last season we were more like press straight from the start of the game. We're pressing right. We didn't give them no time on the ball at all, and then we were catching them and scoring. That's why we were getting so many goals. Now we seem to be sitting back, like feeling them out for a bit, and then if they don't score first, then we're holding on to the ball far too long before we score. I think that's what's getting us into a bit of trouble. I'm not saying that I think we're going to lose at any point, because I don't. I've got confidence in the team, confidence in the team to know that, all right, we might concede a goal, but I'm damn sure we'll score.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. Even when it was 2-2 at Leicester going into the last few minutes, I was still confident that we'd win that game, and it felt inevitable that we would score. Let me ask you this: is the atmosphere more so on the players with their performance to create and to spark, or is it more so on the fans to generate that atmosphere individually?
Well, yeah, I think if I was there, well, last time I went, it was quite quiet, and
Mm,
I was sitting next to a season ticket holder, and he was like, "Oh, it's always like this,"
yeah,
and I'm like, "Oh, like you need to get the players on it, you
yeah.
know? Then they wouldn't be
Was
throwing
that out
their
of
arms
interest?
up."
Was that season ticket holder? Did you feel like they were trying to generate noise themselves?
Yeah, they were trying, but it's like I think it's a little bit of embarrassment, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
If you don't want to, if you're going to start shouting and then everyone around you is not shouting, you feel like a bit of an idiot, don't you?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I really
I
think,
know what you're saying. Like it's hard to stand up amongst like a group of strangers
mm,
and say, you know, like, what do you think of Tottenham? Or, you know, something like
yeah,
that. You know, just something that sparks, you know, I'm not even the biggest fan of that chant because of the end of that song's connotations. But in terms of like in general, like trying to generate something
yeah.
to generate noise, I get what you're saying. It's intimidating to try and stand
Mm.
up to make noise.
And
But
I
go on.
feel that they're so privileged that they get to actually watch the players play because they're absolutely amazing right now. That they should be there, like getting the vibe, the atmosphere, so like hype for them that the players want to go out and they want to attack, they want to score straight away. Do you know
Mm,
what I mean?
mm. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I'm just
Mm,
I guess the final question to ask you, Earl, is
mm.
how do we solve this problem? Like, what can we do? What solutions are there to try and improve the atmosphere?
Ah, me personally, I don't
Mm,
even know
yeah,
how to improve it. All I could just ask if fans that go there are watching this, when you get there, tell the guy next to you to get on
mm,
it. Get on the team. You know,
yeah,
encourage the team because the team love it. Remember, we're the
mm,
12th man. The
yeah,
fans in that stadium are the 12th man.
mm,
And you can tell that the players, they love it when the fans get on them. You
mm.
know, go with them because you see, like last when was it? Gabriel. Every time he's done a tackle, he's raring the fans on to get up. So they need that little bit extra. I think it pushes them just that little bit more.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think the emphasis and the responsibility is more so on the fans. I
Mm,
think you raised a fair point about why it's not been loud because of the performances and maybe we're not starting games as aggressively as we have done in previous seasons. I also think there's an element
mhm.
of I think 2 seasons ago was the best I've ever experienced the Arsenal atmosphere in
Yeah,
that season where we first kind of surprisingly competed for the title.
yeah,
And that felt like it came from the momentum. There was some people
mhm,
that that season was also when the Ashburton Army had their largest allocation of tickets, and after that season, of course, it was halved, I believe. I still think that the primary source of the noise, the primary source of the improvement in atmosphere was from the feeling of being in a title race for the first time in so long, and we kind of rode that
yeah,
momentum. And the AA definitely, of course, contributed to that and helped with
yeah,
that. But from the
mhm,
perspective of kind of like the mental, just the momentum side of it, I think it came more so from the pitch. Which is
yeah,
that fair?
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I'm at. Earl, thank you so much for calling in. I really
Can I
appreciate
just
you.
say one thing,
Yes,
Tom?
push can, man. Go for it.
All I've heard these last few weeks over the news and the TV is that they keep comparing Saka to bloody Cole Palmer. They're two completely different players,
Yeah.
you know. And what I want to say is Saka should be happy with himself because they're comparing everyone to him. So
Mm, mm.
he's the benchmark.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah. I get
And I
so sick and
personally
tired of
think,
these rivalry comparisons.
I personally think he is world class. He's done it at international level for seasons now. You know, he's been to a World Cup final. I mean, the semi-finals and stuff like that, and he's doing it week in, week out. It might not look good on the eye sometimes, but he's still getting stats out, isn't he?
No, absolutely. 100%. 100%.
Yeah,
And I think that he is becoming the benchmark that other people are being compared to, and quite
yeah,
rightfully, because he is star boy and he is the at the top of the
mhm,
pecking order. 100%.
yeah.
Earl, thank you, mate. I really appreciate your time.
Cheers. All right, see you
Thanks,
later,
Earl.
Tim.
Thank you, mate. Fantastic stuff. Really great first call that from Earl. We're going to get our next caller on shortly. I just want to go to the chat box as well and tackle some of these comments. Of course, you need to be over the age of 18. Please have a webcam. I can see there's a couple of people down below that sadly don't have their cameras on or connected at the moment, so I can't get you on until you've sorted out that camera. It is a necessary part of the show. Viraj says, I also think there is an anxiousness because we're actually competing and even one loss means doom. Chan says it also depends on where you're sat and stood. I'm in block 9 and we're never quiet in that area. So I suppose it kind of does depend to a degree on kind of where in the stadium fans are and what you can hear. And of course, although for fans listening on the telly and tweeting about the atmosphere, you're not going to get the same experience as that in the ground in the same way. It's going to be very different. Yeah, at the same time, when you listen to Arsenal away games, you can often through the TV hear the collective noise made by those away fans. It's worth pointing out. Jordan says, get rid of the families, the tourists, and the prawn sandwich brigade is the only way, but that's not fair, so it won't change. And they will bring in more money for the club. Interestingly, Jordan, there isn't a family section anymore, to my understanding. So the irony is that that's not there anymore. The tourist side of things is something I hope that people like yourself, Jordan, ring in on. I'm kind of sensing that I don't think you will ring in. I hope that you do, because I'd love to get your thoughts and for you to explain why you feel that way. It would be great to get you on the show. Let's go to Josh, who's up next, who joins us now. How you doing, Josh? You good? You well?
Yeah, good. How you doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you, mate. What's compelled you to ring in on this call?
I just think this is really not a big issue,
right?
And it feels like, oh, we're running out of things to complain about.
But there's a lot of people complaining about this, Josh. Why do you think there's so many people complaining about it?
I really don't know. I was at the PSG game. It seemed absolutely fine.
Yeah. I mean, they were a lot louder, to be fair. They were a lot. And the thing is, a lot of Arsenal fans would want Arsenal Stadium to be like the PSG fans were all game. So the question, I suppose, is why can't we be like that?
Well, it's never been like that. You know, even at, Highbury was called a library for a reason, you know. Even like the best ever teams that we've had, it's just how it is. It's not a big deal.
And what would you say to people that say, I don't care that that's how it's always been or that's how it is. I think we should be doing more to generate more of an atmosphere?
Well, I'd say the Emirates atmosphere for the last 3 years has probably been the best it's ever been at Arsenal.
Yeah,
for a home audience, it's like unbelievably good.
I think it's much better than it was. I remember when we used to go to games, in the 2010s, it was dead for a lot of those games. It was really, really quiet.
And the other thing is, like, it's October, it's the start of the season.
Yeah.
When it gets to crunch time, like last year, people were complaining, but during the final run-in, it was unbelievable again.
Yeah.
Once it cranked up, once the finish line is in sight, it would be fine, it would be loud. But one thing that I think is really important to notice is, like, the groans don't really exist anymore.
In the same way.
Yeah, people back this team.
Yeah.
And, like, even now you'll have, like, a player like Jesus who's getting a little bit of flack, but people want the players to do well. It's not like before you'd always hear groans. It's not like that anymore. Like, if Arsenal lose a goal, the crowd will be like, okay, don't worry.
And that happened against Southampton when we went 1-0 down. Like there was a response from the crowd when we went 1-0 down to really turn around, and we scored within minutes.
This is a non-issue, really.
Yeah.
It just feels like we're really good, doing great things, and as fans, you always want something to complain about.
Well, it keeps me in a job, Josh, to be fair.
It's just the nature of fandom. It's always, football is an emotional release. And it's not always positive emotions. There's a lot of anxiety around supporting football. And sometimes you just need to vent about something.
Well,
So,
there's a lot of people agreeing with you, Josh, in the chat box, saying that you're speaking, facts about this. And I tend to kind of lean slightly towards where you are. I think
yeah,
there is an element that maybe can be improved, or that the ticketing situation is a very interesting one. But
yeah.
overall, I align with you, Josh. Last point before we move on.
I don't really know what else to say. It's a shame we have to wait 10 days for the next game because, we're in a good place right now and just want to be watching it every few days.
Yeah, it's proven to be very. It's going to be a hectic season. It's going to be a demanding season. The expectation of fans has also gone through the roof, which I think also is an element of of why the atmosphere has taken a bit of a hit. But that's the reality that we find ourselves in. Josh, thank you so much for calling in, mate. I really appreciate you smashing.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, Josh. Smashing stuff. Simon's up next, then Fizzy is up after that, and then Elliot is on too. Simon, how you doing, mate? You good? You well?
Not too bad. And yourself, Tom?
Yeah, always good to hear your dulcet tones, my friend. Tell me why you've phoned in on this topic.
I was at the PSG game, Tom, and yeah, I think that you're right that the atmosphere was not the best, but I also feel like it was just, first and foremost, it was a little bit nervous, but you weren't sure what to expect, and the atmosphere before the first goal was a little bit better than afterwards. So I think that the atmosphere tends to get up when we need it. Like when we went 1-0 down, when we get a player sent off, it gets really loud and the crowd gets behind the team. When we're cruising 2-0 at home against PSG, then yeah, everybody's sitting back and enjoying it, and they're not as raucous as possible. I think also the timing of the game, people coming from work midweek, they haven't been on the booze all day. I think that also adds to it. I think like the Leicester game, I wasn't at that game, but I watched it back on TV. Let's say, the atmosphere there when they come back to 2-2, it kind of kicked off again a bit. So I think when it's needed, it's there. But I think all in all, we're kind of enjoying it more than anything else. I think, the chants around me. I sat in the North Bank in the front row, and the crowd around me were pretty quiet. I was around a lot of staff. It seemed like they come halfway through. About 10 minutes after kickoff, they all had Arsenal gear on. They looked like they were like all working for the club, doing specific roles, and then going to watch the game. So I don't imagine them getting up for it. But a lot of season ticket holders where I was sat as well, or they all seem to know each other anyway, at least. And they were just sitting and enjoying the game. So I think it's a factor of two things. I think it's a factor that we're doing really well, and that people are enjoying the game, and the kickoff times, but also the factor of when it's needed, it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think that.
What else do you need?
Sorry, Simon, I interrupted you. Keep going.
Sorry, Tom. Yeah, I was almost finished. I was just saying, what else? There's nothing else needed. I think when that 12th man is needed, we're there, we're loud, we're going off. Don't get me wrong, I've been to Spurs, I've been to United, at the Emirates, and that's pretty much loud all day, because if we go up, we're winding them up, and if we go down, we're cheering the team on. So I don't feel like, and I think a lot of the we're definitely not the media darlings, are we? Come on. I think a lot of this this has got a bad atmosphere, this bad rap is something that is fabricated out of media to say, oh, let's kick them, let's give them something else to moan about, because like Josh just said, they're running out of things to complain about now. So they're kind of, what negative connotations can we put around Arsenal? Oh, let's say the stadium's a bit drab. Yeah. And it is at times, but it's at times that we're comfortable and we're sitting back and enjoying the game. Yeah,
like the PSG game, it's also, I think the context around the PSG game was that it's kind of this new revamped league phase. Like the jeopardy's not there in the same way that it was for the Bayern game when you're in that knockout round of the competition. Even though PSG are a massive team and their fans are having, we're producing some of the best atmosphere we've seen. That's also a cultural thing, I think. Like you go up and down the country in England, and it's very similar across the league. But
so on that point, Tom, that PSG were bouncing, they were bouncing for flipping an hour before the game.
An hour before the game, yeah, more than that. Yeah.
I got in about 6:45, and they were full and they were loud, and they didn't stop till after kickoff. They were really impressive. But I also believe, as an away supporter as well, who go away, we're loud when we go away for 90 minutes. We're not always PSG late, but we are we're
very good.
Well.
We have one of, if not the best away fan groups in the league.
Yeah, and you look at United, the United fans when they go away. I think they're really good. There's quite a few fan bases that travel really well and sing loudly in hostile settings. I think that's just normal. Be interesting to see what PSG are like when they're at their own place. I think because that's again a big city with people working and things like that, and their fans coming after work and things. Like when you go away, you usually set the whole day. You're off early, you've got cans in the car or on the train or whatever, and you're a bit later. So
unless you're driving.
Unless you're driving. Unlucky, Tom. But so it's kind of that as well. So people just need to sometimes sit and think, oh, where's this narrative coming from? Is it being fabricated? And is it really a thing? And like Josh said, I don't think it's a thing, Tom. I think when we're needed, I remember last year.
I put all those tweets up, Simon. Sorry, I put all those tweets up. Clearly, people are like a bit frustrated at the moment about the atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's always going to be some. I was conscious about it when I was sat at PSG. I was thinking, it's not as loud as usual. But so they were the conclusions that I come to that I've just explained. That some of the reasons why. But yeah, I don't think it's much of a muchness, isn't it? I think we're just kind of there's nothing else to complain now. So let's kind of.
Well, let me ask you one more question before you go.
If we do want to complain about things, let's look at some of the renovations that needed. I can
well, that does, and there is. I'm aware that there is obviously an intent to improve stuff there at the stadium. But let me ask you one more question, because obviously there are a lot of fans that go to grounds and don't necessarily, sing or have an intention to sing. There are some fans that will be going as quote unquote tourists, going just for the spectacle of it. Do they have to?
No, they don't have to sing.
Is that okay?
People pay their hard-earned money. There's no terms and conditions that you have to sing. There isn't. Some of the songs, I've been going for 30 years, Tom. Some of the songs, and I go to probably 5 to 10 games a season through my supporters club, and I've been really lucky to be able to access tickets. It's getting harder and harder. But some of the people are paying top money to go to the game, and there's no prerequisite to go and sing your heart out. Do you know what I mean? And cheer your team on. Of course, cheer the team on and clap. Different people are different. I'm of the belief as go and do what you want to do. Yeah. If you want to sing, you sing. If you don't want to sing, don't sing. And no person next to you, in front of you, behind you can tell you any different. You paid your money to go there. You do what you want to do. I sing. I don't start chants. I'll give you that 100%. I'm sober. I don't drink alcohol. I'm not the one that's kind of, but I'll join in and I have a good sing along when it gets going. But so I'll hold my hands up. I'm not a starter of chants, and it takes a specific person to do that. But I don't think there is people that I don't think that you can say that they have to do it. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I don't think you can force people to sing. I don't think that. I think people should be encouraged to. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying people can be encouraged to sing. But if you're just not comfortable doing it,
another thing that they could do, I think, one simple thing that they could do to encourage people to sing is provide some of the lyrics in every match program. They should put a song in there with the lyrics. Some of the songs are really
just a page in the program with the song.
Yeah, why not? Why not? And then you collect all the songs. We got 19 home games. Let's put 19
really
songs in the program.
I quite like that. Yeah, I like that. Like
you might then.
That's a Welsh thing, Simon. You're bringing in your Welsh influence.
Church obviously have the words for the song in the book, so why not do it at the stadium? If you want more people to sing, remove every barrier possible for them to sing. And one of the barriers is not knowing some of the new songs and the new lyrics. The Gabrielle song, I to be honest, I didn't really know it. And like I said, I've been going since Highbury. I've probably been to 300 odd games. And I hold my hands up and say, some of the lyrics I don't know. I know.
Well, I mean, a lot of the songs get concocted by a lot of the away supporters, I noticed, because you see the songs go a bit viral online at away games when they come up with new chants, like Gabrielle's new song, for instance, that's come up in recently. So I think you're right. I think it's a nice, humble idea, and I think maybe that's something that could encourage people to do it, and maybe it's something that we spoken about with the club. Simon, thank you so much for calling in, mate. I really appreciate your time.
No problem, Tom. Enjoy your day, mate.
You too, fella. Have a good one. Fantastic stuff. Fizzy's on next. Been very patient. We finally got his tech working. How you doing, Fizzy? You good? You well? Take yourself off mute, and I'll be able to hear what you're saying. Tell me what compelled you to ring in, my friend.
All right, Tom. Good morning.
Morning, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And you?
Yes, very good, thank you. What is it about this topic that's got you inspired to talk on?
Briefly, I have two things to say on this topic. And firstly, I want to say that it's the sole responsibility of the match-going fan,
yes,
to cheer up the team, irrespective of what the situation is. Maybe going a goal down early or going 2 or 3 goals up early, irrespective of. If we go 2 or 3 goals up early, it doesn't mean we can't win the game 9-0. So the fans don't have to stop or go cold, because anything can happen in football. This is a game we've been watching for years. A team can go 3 or 4 goals up and still end up losing or drawing the game. We've seen it before. I'm Nigeria. Nigeria has been involved in a game that we went 4-0 down, and we came back to equalize 4-4, and we end up winning the game on penalties. So in football, there's nothing that has not been seen before. So that we are 2 or 3-0 up in the first 15 or 20 minutes doesn't mean the fans should go cold and the atmosphere should go flat. No, it doesn't mean that. And secondly, as a tourist fan, I'm someone that has never been to a national game before.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to doing so one of these days, probably in the nearest future. And
100%.
Definitely, if I'm going for the first time, I would most likely be on my phone for probably the entire duration of the game, because I'll need to capture all the moments, because that's going to be my first time, and I wouldn't want to miss out anything.
That's a really honest admission of you, actually.
Yeah, and secondly, on that, most of the chants, as the last caller said, are not known to majority, especially tourist fans. So, though there are some that being a national supporter for since the days of Nwanko Kanu, I know some of the chants, especially the old ones, and the new should I say anthem before the game. We know some of those ones, so I can always sing along even while on my phone trying to capture those beautiful moments. You see. So, but I still want to implore the match-going fans: cheer up every tackle, every block, every 50-50 decision. Put pressure on the referee from our own side to win that decision, because it's the sole responsibility of the match-going fans to ensure that the team come out victorious. Even though the team also have to put in their best on the field, but we need that energy from the fans. As you always see, the some of the players on the pitch, like Martin Odegaard, Zinchenko, Saliba, trying to cheerlead from the pitch, because they need the energy as well. If they notice that the atmosphere is going flat, they also try to cheerlead and try to wake up the fans so that we can get that energy and it will flow through the players. If the fans are being complacent, are being cocky, it cannot. There's a way that can also flow down through to the pitch. But as a social media fan or as a non-UK fan, we can afford to be that, to be complacent. Oh, we are playing Southampton, we win 10-0, we win 7-0. We can afford that, but as a match-going fan, you can't. You have to be there through thick and thin, stand behind the team from minute 1 to minute 99 or minute 100, depending on how many minutes they are done. So that's just it. That's my little 2 cents on the matter.
No, Fizzy, I think you spoke very honestly about that, especially kind of like if you were to go to a game that, yes, you would be on your phone, because that is something that obviously you see a lot of, I would describe maybe fairly as local supporters would turn around and say that, that's something they get annoyed at as fans with their phone out. But as Simon said on the previous call, if you're going to the game, you've paid your money to go to the game, you're still going to sing, you're still going to chant, you're still going to join in. But just because you're on your phone doesn't stop you from singing. It's not putting it in front of your mouth and putting a muzzle over it. You can still sing.
Definitely.
But of course, you're going to capture things for yourself. Of course, you shouldn't be posting it online because technically that's illegal. but I absolutely understand why you're capturing the images for yourself, mate. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah. It's for personal consumption.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I really want to say you're doing a very good job, even though a bit difficult for me to join in at 8 o'clock most of the time because my work starts at 8. But once in a while, when I'm chance like this, I always join in, and I must say you're doing a very wonderful job. Please keep it
Fizzy,
up.
thank you so much. That's really kind of you, and I really do appreciate you and your listenership and your call as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Fizzy. You too, mate. Enjoy it. Fantastic stuff. Just before we go to Elliot and Scotty's up after that, we'll get some of your thoughts in the chat. Cheech says, I've been lucky to use my mate's season ticket for the last 3 home games in the North Bank. There is, for example, a person that is a season ticket holder. I've yet to see them react when we score. Of course, get Fizzy there speaking as what some people would call him a tourist fan, coming from abroad, coming from outside of the UK, even coming outside of what I'd say if you're coming down from, Yorkshire or anywhere up north or outside the West End side, you'd still be described as technically a tourist fan. You're coming into the area from outside, and I don't get that whole tourist fan kind of bashing. It really does kind of grind my gears a little bit. Elliot's up next. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
I'm well, Tom. How are you?
Good stuff. Regular on our phone-ins, of course, as always. Silly o'clock, whatever time it is. I'm sure it's 2:37 a.m. over there.
3:37. You're all right, Tom. Well done.
Where are you based in the US at the moment, Elliot?
I'm based in Canada. I'm based in Toronto, actually. So.
Oh, okay. Canada. Sorry, yes, of course.
There's
a lot with the hurricane going on at the moment, and anyone I speak to in the West, I'm conscious to get kind of their status and hoping that all is well with those, of course, that are dealing with the stuff out there at the moment. Because it is, as a former geography teacher myself, I can understand the scale of what's going on. It's absolutely mental. So yeah, wishing all the best to those listeners that are out there that are dealing with that stuff right now. But Elliot, back to the point at hand. Why are you rung in on this topic?
Well, again, I can take 2 types of perspectives, being from a North American and a European perspective, because I do attend matches regularly while I'm there. In terms of the atmosphere, indeed, it is the job of the attending supporter to be a supporter, to be a fan, to sing, to chant, without being rude, of course, but to support the team as much as possible in order to get a win. Sure. Especially now that we have a championship title, a Virgil title winning side. I think the team has done enough. It could do more, of course, but they've done enough to put us in a title winning position. It is up to us as supporters to push them on to greater things, because as they, there's always some, it's always, we always have the idea of the 12th man out here, the supporter, the fan, the people who will push the team over the mark, and it is needed now more than ever. And again, if you have a team, if you have a side that's doing the business on the pitch, it's time for us as supporters to get behind it. And there's no real reason why we should be silent when there's a match going on, especially during any time during the season in which we are on the verge of great things.
I absolutely understand where you're coming from. The momentum is there. As someone, of course, who is from abroad, how do you feel about the stick that, quote unquote, tourist fans get for being, in some people's minds, the primary reason as to why the stadium atmosphere is not as good as it can be?
Well, I don't know if that isn't. It may be out of sheer ignorance of of the songs of the crowd, so they wouldn't know the words. Now, what I would suggest, if there's a running song that's going on within the supporters, flash it on within the stadium, within the stadium fan boards, within the TV screens that are out there. Flash them on there so that people can understand what's being said, so they can follow along. Instead of having to hand out pamphlets of go to one
programs. I think that idea from Simon's a really good one. I like the idea of
I think it's a really good one.
If you like, I think it's a really, really good one. What do you make therefore of kind of the whole ticketing idea? Because obviously we've seen that Arsenal have changed from a system of kind of where you queue up like you would for a concert or something in an online queue for tickets. It's now changed to this ballot system. Now, if you're coming from abroad like you would, Elliot, it's near impossible for fans like yourself sometimes to get tickets on a ballot, because if you want to plan a trip over to the UK and enter a ballot, you don't know if you're going to be successful or not until much closer to the game, which then means if you're going to book a ticket at that point, tickets are hugely expensive, and flights, of course, are then raised in price as well. So what do you make of kind of the whole ballot idea and the idea that it's also taking tickets away from what some would describe as local loyal fans?
Well, again, with regards to that, you want the I mean, to have the local fan going all the time, then you're taking away from the international supporter, the national supporter that may be out there. Remember, this is not just a local club anymore. This is an international. I mean, we are under the auspices of, and very lucky to be, an international club, a club that's supported by millions, not only in the UK but around the world. And as you can see, when they go on tour in the States, if they go on tour to Asia, if they go on tour to Australia, Arsenal are very, very well represented, if not taking up half of the stadium attendance, if not 3/4 to full stadium match attendance if necessary. So it's always important to allow new fans in, to be they. And all fans are good fans. All fans are real fans. All fans are supporters, whether you are around the block, if not 6,000 if not 5,000-6,000 miles away. And they are to be respected. They are to be accepted. They are to be welcomed within the stadium. Because listen, we as supporters from abroad, we know the songs. We understand what's going on. We buy the kit. Believe me, I have a huge bill at the end of the year when it comes to that. And we only want a chance to be there to help bring this team to greatness. And it is really hope that the ballot system not only accepts has I wouldn't say we want full allotment. We want a good portion of allotment of tickets to those fans, but you want maybe 20 to 30% of those supporters to come in from out of town, to come in from around the world, so that they can take part in the experience. Because again, it only grows the game, it only grows the side, and you need that side to be there, to be to come in and help with concessions, to help with buying at the Armory. Because again, it only grows the game. It only grows the team itself. And
the success of the club is based on a lot of, and Arsenal being able to do things that they wouldn't otherwise do. They might not even have the owners that they have now, with obviously the financial backing they provided, if it wasn't, of course, for that global element that the club now has. So yeah, it's a really good point, Elliot. Thank you so much for your call, mate. And I'll go back to bed.
I will. I'm just gonna lock up shop here and head back to bed indeed. So wishing everyone all the best and during this interlull, and we're looking for a big win in the next 2 weeks.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate your time as always.
Cheers, mate.
Lovely stuff. Scotty's up next. How you doing, Scotty? You good? You well?
All right, Tom, you all right, mate? Oh,
very good, mate. You've got the worst green screen in the world, my friend.
I've got a green screen. I'm actually in my bed, so I don't want people to see that I'm actually got my bed.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. We'll cope with it. All right. What's encouraged you to call in on this, pal?
Well, I was baited into it because I basically didn't want to be that guy on the chat troll. So I said that I put a comment saying people are spoiled and entitled. And that, so obviously I was just talking to the guy originally. And so I didn't want to be the person that they said, call in if you're going to do that. So I had to.
Yeah, fair play to you, mate. I respect it. So what was it that you thought? What was it? I guess you were disagreeing with a point before.
Well, just he was saying about the style of football.
People, I guess.
Yeah, he was talking about the style of football, saying that we play too slow, and I'm like, I'm not being funny. We're at a point like this is like I used to play football myself, so I've come to Arsenal a few times, but most of the time I was playing Saturdays myself. If you can see by the grades in my beard, I'm retired now. I'm 45.
Sure.
So it gets to a point where I've followed Arsenal for so long, and we've never really been a top club. Do you know what I mean? We've been the third best team in England, but we haven't had the riches of the Chelseas. We haven't had the riches of the Man United, the Man Cities. So for us to get to a point where we are now, we're facing a point now where we're actually challenging, and we've got certain fans that haven't gone through those times or forget those times, and you think that you're going to moan about our style of play when we're getting through games. I remember the Wenger years when we played amazing football, could be up 4, 5, 6-0, and we don't get through games. And at this point, we're doing everything we're supposed to do. We haven't lost a game all season, and the excuses are, oh, we're not playing great football, so we need to play better football to get the crowd going. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I think that's
I'm with you on this. I think that, you know, I think there's an explanation for sure because, you know, mentally, like, I think expectations changed in that season 2 seasons ago where it was a surprise that we were in the title race. Everyone thought it was going to be, you know, push for top 4. That's where we were aiming for. And then suddenly we've comfortably qualified for top 4. And now we're pushing Man City.
We overachieved, didn't we, that season?
We did overachieve. Yeah. And that, I think, in a way, kind of the fans in the stadium rode the wave of that momentum with the noise. Yes, there was a high proportion of the Ashburton army, which I think is a factor and worth bringing up. But I think the primary reason was the momentum that we had from that season's, you know, quote unquote success. Obviously, the following season and this season, expectations are through the roof for Arsenal. You know, and some fans, if we don't win the league, Arteta should go for some. And that's a madness to me. But that, I think, also bleeds into the atmosphere.
Yeah, and I think it's nerves because people are so nervy that we know now we're not going through this journey of, like you said before, people say that we was eighth, and we wasn't eighth because the season that Arteta took over, he had like half the games. So he had 18 games, got 33 points. If you double that, he would have got 66 points. So he basically would have come, you can't give him 18 games and say you came eighth that season. So he's literally come eighth. Well, sorry, I'll count it from the second full season that he had, the full season. So he came eighth that season, but again, it was 65 points. So I'm looking at the points, not where we finish. And then obviously we've gone from that. He's won an FA Cup. That's that in the first 6 months. We've come eighth, but I'm counting it at 60-something points. And then we've gone on the next season to almost pipping Man City. So for me, he's done exceedingly well, but then what tended to happen for me is that the banter came from other teams saying that we bottled it, and I think that's rubbing off on us because at the end of the day, we're still exceeding our expectations. We've got a manager that's never managed before. He's got us FA Cup in his first year. His second year, he's consolidated it, got rid of all the players that we didn't want, like the Mustafis and the people that weren't good enough, and he's now built this team in his own image, and the first year he's had with them, we've finished second twice. And the only thing that I can say that is the problem is other teams will banter us and talking about us bottling it, but we can't look at that. We are still overachieving. We haven't got the Liverpools have got world-class players in their team that have done it, been there, done it. Man City, every single prediction will have Man City above us, and it's only like till this season that Liverpool we finish higher than Liverpool. So going on that, you can't ask to be somewhere that you don't even think we're being predicted to be. He's overachieving, and still we stop overachieving. We can't be as fans asking for more than we actually think that we're destined to anyway. That is the epitome of being entitled and spoiled. Because I mean, this is as I said, this is a brand new manager, brand new team. We have the youngest team in the league for the last 2 seasons until this season. So let them cook, let them do what they need to do, and all we need to do as fans is support them, give them as much support as we can. And stop getting triggered by the other fans, Tottenham fans. They're going to want to banter us. All these teams are going to want to banter us, and they want us to get rid of Arteta, saying stuff like, oh, get rid of Arteta now, because if he doesn't win it this season, do you think we should get rid of him? The only reason why people say that is because they're scared, because I want Ten Hag to stay because it's funny for us.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you don't want people to start putting pressure on your manager if you actually think he's not a threat. So this is what I'm saying. I'm saying as a fan base, we need to go and give these young boys as much support as possible because we're still overachieving while Man City are in the frame.
Any other fan of any other club would be delighted if Arteta left. They'd 100%. Be delighted. 100%. Absolutely delighted. Yeah,
100%.
And that tells you everything. And if he was to go, there would not be a shortage of elite clubs that are looking at him as potentially being their replacement. You know, Real Madrid with Ancelotti, Barcelona if Hansi Flick was to leave, Bayern Munich if Vincent Kompany left, they'd all be looking at Arteta to be a replacement.
He is the best young manager he's got to be one of the best young managers.
No, him and Xabi Alonso and those two are up there as probably the best. I'd struggle to name a coach of his age bracket that's better right now than him. No. But at the end of the day, like people talk about how much. Obviously, I know we're going off on a bit of a tangent from the main profile of the conversation, but people often talk about how much has been spent, and then they talk about it in an isolation when they don't look at how much Man City. Not only how much Man City, of course, spent prior to the arrival of Arteta when Guardiola's there, but also the players they had that Guardiola inherited. Guardiola inherited Aguero, Kompany, De Bruyne, David Silva. Arteta inherited Mustafi. Like it's a difference. Like,
and the difference is, like we talked about that first. I would say we had Pepe, we had all those guys, we had Maitland Mars playing right back. We had Saka playing left back. So that first 18 months, he had a team of like which was so it was only like I think it was Partey came in that second season, second season. So and it was only Partey. We got who was it? The centre half from Flamingo. What's his name again? I can't remember. Cedric.
Pablo Mari.
Yeah, Pablo. And we had Cedric. So we had this team, and then every time someone went out, we was left with the holdings, and we left with those players again. Yeah. That's why we didn't make fifth that season. If you think about it, when we lost to Tottenham. So there are reasons that we was always defaulting back to our old team. But once he's had his team in, he's always been consistent and giving us what we needed. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's always a reason. And even in that first 18 months, he was given like what? 80 million? Not even that, 60, 70 million. We bought Partey and no one else, realistically, for 18 months. Do you know what I mean? So, and you think about people like, obviously I don't want to talk about the old enemy, but if you think about how much money Andrew's got, he's been given like 400,000 his first 2 years. Arteta never got that until the third year.
And just to bring the conversation around again, like I think actually the fans and the match going fans, you know, we are, and it's not to kind of like separate things, but I often think that when you look at kind of your feeds on social media, and then you get the view of the fans in the stadium, it's night and day. Like it is night and day. The feeling of those that are going to the games on the whole is that we are incredibly blessed to be where we are right now,
100%.
And we're moving in a really good direction, and it is kind of this online toxicity that
we can get sucked into it. Don't get me wrong, I see it.
100%. Yeah, me too.
But I'm saying, but you still got to come with an element of realism. I mean, my best experience as an Arsenal fan as well, like we're talking about, I'll take it back to what we was originally talking about with the home, like I've been to home games, I've been to away games. My best experience at an away game, when you sing the loudest, was when we beat Real Madrid in the Champions League. That is when you get like, so we're talking about PSG being loud at our ground. That's what away fans do. You want to be heard. You feel like you're going on like tour on an army like training camp. I mean, so that is normal for other the away team to be the loudest to bring your team through because you feel like you're out in the trenches with them. That's a normal scenario. Do you know what I mean? So
I do.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. Thank you for your call, mate. I really appreciate it. I don't feel like you were skimping out at all. I think you raised some really good points. So thank you.
Mate.
Cheers, Scotty. Have a good one.
Great show, by the way. Love it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Lovely stuff. Fantastic words there from Scott. I know we went off on a brief tangent, but I think it was worth it for the context of kind of like the feeling at the moment amongst supporters. And I think, you know, when I said those words about like, if you ask fans that go to games and you ask like a random supporter that's behind an avatar of Saka on social media or something, the views are going to be different. You know, I think there is a difference. It's not to say that if you're, you know, you've never gone to a game or you're online that you know, you're less of a fan than someone else, but I just think the feeling is different, and that's always important. Let's bring on TJR to the conversation. How you doing, mate? You good, Joel?
Well, hey, I'm alright.
Hey, sorry, I caught you out of nowhere then, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, no, I'm alright. I was going to talk about something that the guy just mentioned before. So it was the actual experience versus online experience and how people experience things differently. One of my mates, so I've been to stadium not for a while. I went to Highbury when I was living in London, so I've been going for Arsenal maybe 25 years almost, you know?
Yeah.
It's, you know, since good, but I was living for a little bit.
Oh, Tim, we're losing you a little bit, mate. Your internet connection is very dodgy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was fiddling it. I'll come back.
It's all right. I think we're muddling through. I think it's connected. I'll tell you if it goes wrong.
All right, no problem. One thing was the manager also sets the expectation for fans and in a lot of ways the atmosphere. So, for example, Pep, who's obviously, you know, related to Arteta in the way that they philosophize, he's constantly trying to G up City's fans, and they're often doing not much. And it might be a symptom of how they both play suffocating football that is intellectualized more than felt in your cojones. Down in the thesis of football, and you want a certain thing. For example, I don't love London Forever. I think it's a little bit Coldplay for my liking.
Fair enough. Yeah, I know there are other people that feel that way as well.
Yeah. All the songs, everything.
Tim, we're really struggling now. You're going in and out of being a Dalek at the moment.
Don't worry, I'll be off then.
I think we got your point, thankfully, though. I think we got your point. But I hear where you're coming from. I just can't really hear what you're saying. But Tim, thank you so much for your call, mate. It's going very Dalek, unfortunately. I think we haven't got any more calls in at the moment. I mean, literally, if anyone rings in the next 2 minutes, you'll get your thoughts said. There were a couple of people that jumped in and jumped out, but so far it's been very, very good to see so many varied kind of views at this moment in time, indeed. And I really look forward, of course, to hearing more from supporters, I think, about this topic, because I don't think the reality is quite like that you read on socials. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm reading too much into online posts on social media. But I hear question marks from, and significant, and people with significant followings that you pop up on your timelines because your algorithm pushes them forwards. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, oh, maybe they're the people that need to start calling in and phoning in and speaking on this topic, rather than just because it's harmless to send a tweet in some ways. It is nothing. It doesn't cost you anything, does it? You just send in that tweet, and it does what it does, and you think nothing of it. But actually, the bigger context is that thousands of people are going to read that, infected by that, are considering changing their views based on that. But maybe I'm giving it too much time. Maybe I'm giving it too much attention, and maybe that's what it is. The main thing for me is, and the thing that I always come back to when it comes to kind of the atmosphere, is that tourist fan element that really, really, really gets on my nerves. And I just think the xenophobia that exists, sadly, in so many of our supporters. And if you don't believe me that it exists, go back and watch one of our phones that we did on this very topic, I think only last year, and you can hear and see it in full flow as well. Nonso joins us now. How you doing, Nonso? You good? You well?
Fantastic. Absolute pleasure to have me on the show. How are you?
Pleasure to speak with you, mate. Thank you for tuning in. Tell me, what sparked your imaginations to come in on this?
I kind of feel it's a bit presumptive if you're asking people how to support, behave in a particular type of way. I kind of feel people should be allowed to do what's natural to them. Of course, if you're in the pitch or if you're in the stadium, it's expected you're going to do some sort of cheering. I mean, that's why you're there. But asking people how to behave or how to comes a bit presumptive, in my opinion. I don't know what you think.
I think. Okay, give me two sides to the argument here. So one side of the argument is you're right, and I think we talked about that with Simon earlier. If someone pays their money to go to a game, they should be able to choose how they go and how they enjoy that game. We heard from Fizzy earlier, who said, he's from Nigeria, and if he came to a game, he'd be on his phone a lot, filming stuff, because it's his first experience there. Of course, he'd want to capture that moment because he might not be able to go back for a very, very long time, because some people don't have the privilege of being able to go to games all the time. But then there's another side of the coin, Nonso, which I think you could argue is, if we want Arsenal to do well on the pitch, we talk about the 12th man element of this as well. And if the players aren't giving all that they can, do we have to also look internally and say, are we as fans in the ground giving everything we can to match that energy that we expect from them? I guess the question is, do you feel like the responsibility is on the players to generate the atmosphere, or is the responsibility on the fans to generate the atmosphere to support the players?
Probably a question as old as football itself, but it's
chicken or the egg, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. But funnily enough, incidentally, I'm from Nigeria myself. My wife and kids stay in the UK. Worcester, shout out to them. And I over the summer I was out there at the Emirates with the kids, with the wife and kids, to watch. I think, was it against Lyon? Yeah, Lyon, right. And it was the first time for the kids and so on, but they were all tuned in. We weren't, maybe took a couple of pictures, but for most of the time I wanted to get engaged in the game enjoy, watching our stars come out to play. But at the same time, I agree with you that it's like a responsibility, but people are going to behave the way they feel comfortable with, right? And so, but regardless, I mean, it's an absolute privilege if you ever make it out there to the stadium. So I think when you go, take the time out, soak in all the atmosphere and give in and shout and be immersed in the event of things. But I still love it. I will cheer if ever I'm given an opportunity to go to the stadium. I cheer on the seats while watching from TV. So I probably will do the same if So well,
of course, yeah.
I just want people to go and not be in an atmosphere where they can express themselves, be happy, and really enjoy the spectacle, so to speak. So hopefully we will it won't be such a problem. But I'm glad the team is doing well, and it resonates. So again, back to your question: is it the team doing very well, or if it's the fans generating that energy for the team to reciprocate?
Yeah, no, not so. I think you're spot on, and I think you raise a very fair argument on that, and it generates that question. I think that we'll leave it to the supporters in the chat box in the comment section to give their thoughts on it as well. But thank you so much for your call. I really appreciate it.
It's a blessing to be here. You're doing a fantastic job, Tom.
No, thank you, mate.
Man.
That's very kind. Thank you indeed.
Let
Enjoy
me
the rest
run
of your
away
day, my
before
friend.
they catch me in the office, as you can see.
Run, man. Run quick.
All right, bro. You take it easy.
In a bit. Bye. Lovely stuff. Really, really good to hear from Nonso. And so I think that he raises a fair question. I think that we think about, whose responsibility is it? Is it on the fans in the ground to make the atmosphere? Do they have a responsibility to do it? Is that fair? If someone pays their money, are they entitled to behave within reason how they wish in the stadium? I think that's a fair question to ask. Tyer is on the call next. How you doing, Tyer? You good? You well?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, very good, thank you. What's sparked your interest in this topic?
To be honest, I've been a fan now for probably about 40 odd years now. So I've worked at the Arsenal in a number of capacities. I've worked serving beers, hot dogs. I've done the stewarding. I've done the whole lot. I've done Tottenham and Arsenal.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I've done the Oak Room at Tottenham, which was actually quite good. Got to see George Graham before he actually got put in charge of Tottenham, so it was actually really good to see all that. But I've got experience when I was a steward. I was a steward there for over 15 years, and we kind of hamper our own atmosphere because we are continually told when we was there to go down every 5-10 minutes and get people to sit down continually. The amount of arguments that I got in with fans, some people may recognize me from being on here. I used to work from 7 to 9 on the lower tier, and then from 9 up to 18, where we got up to the away fans. And we're continually told to go down. People are trying to get an atmosphere going, and then we're told to go down and then start having arguments with them about sitting down.
Yeah.
That kind of hampers the atmosphere, in my opinion. You're trying to generate it. As with all football grounds, the atmosphere mainly comes from behind the goal areas. You never get it on the sides.
Yeah.
As much. So
which is why I don't know why the away fans are behind the goal. A really silly placement for the away fans, I've always felt, in the Emirates. I don't know why they're there.
Yeah. So for me, if you're going to create the Ashburton Army, which I think is great, and I loved it, and you're going to put it behind the goal, I know some people are saying there's no family enclosure. You're right. But when you're a junior gunner member, and you're a red member, the only tickets they will offer you is from the right side of the dugout all the way around to where the away section is.
Yeah, or the upper tier.
Or the upper tier part. Now, I've been over there with my son a couple of times now, and because the Ashburton Army are up, the rest of the fans get up. So it creates a standing situation, which then caused arguments with other family people who've got young kids there who then can't see the game. So then you've got conflicts happening within the back end of the actual goal area where you're trying to generate the atmosphere. So I thought that was a stupid placement.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? Because if you're going to put them anywhere else in the stadium, then you're going to be asking season ticket holders to move seats, and that's going to be very difficult to do. Do you know what I mean?
See, yeah, this gets on to my other point about season ticket holders. I have no problem with tourist fans. I was there for a Chelsea game where I was lucky to manage to get tickets for me and my son as Red members and Junior Gunner members, and almost had my ankle broken by an American tourist fan who jumped up and down and ended up jumping on my ankle. Well happy. He was very happy to be there. He was an Arsenal fan. He'd come over and he was fully immersed. He was up, he was singing, he was doing everything. My problem with some season ticket holders are the ones that do it for business.
Right.
And then they sell them on, or they give them to business people that then turn up. They don't have no interest in the team, have no interest in being there. Like they just turn up. And I've known a lot of them as a steward and as a fan that then leave before half time. I worked at club level, and this is God's honest truth. I used to work at the club level entrance on the East Stand.
Okay.
And we used to have people come in, they'd go upstairs, they'll have their meal, and then they'll come down before kickoff, and we have to tell them, once you go out, you can't come back in. And they go, no, that's fine. I'm only here for the meal.
Oh, dearie me. Yeah.
So,
and that's that's a problem. Yeah, it's gutted, isn't it, when you hear that?
That annoys me something chronic, because I'm an avid Arsenal fan, and the only way I could get a season ticket was to become a steward.
Yeah.
And I used to do that. Luckily enough, I got placed on the lower tier, so I always managed to watch the games and everything else.
Yeah.
So that was my way of doing it. So when you see other fans from businesses and that getting tickets, and then they have no interest in being there, so it's one of the reasons why I always thought that season tickets should be on a rotational basis of 4 seasons, because you've got some people there, they've got season tickets and they're hardly turning up to games, but they're selling them on to other people that then don't have no interest in being there. Or they do give them to fans that do want to be there. But if you do it on a rotational basis every 4 years, I don't reckon anyone should have a ticket for 60 odd years. You need to try and generate new fans coming into the stadium. So if you have it on an option, a 4-year rotational, the newer fans that are coming up get a chance to then become season ticket holders, and you bring through that new breed of new fan. If you've got someone sitting there for 60 years, you've got a lot of fans on here now that are so annoyed that they can't get tickets to go there, because people are holding on to these season tickets for 50, 60 years, selling on their tickets whenever they feel like it, and not turning up to games when other real fans can't even get in the stadium.
Yeah.
So that's one of my other.
I think that's a really, really interesting point about the idea of it being on rotation, because I think I signed up to be a season ticket holder. Did we? Yeah, I think I signed up to be a season ticket holder, like, goodness me, like well over a decade ago, and I think I'm still like 80 odd thousand or something like in the queue. Like it's mad.
That's what I mean. You think of all them new fans that are sitting on there that would love to be going to that stadium, but if you had it on a 4-year rotational, you'd be bringing through the new younger fans, which might actually help the atmosphere, because a lot of the older fans don't like standing. They don't like getting up and doing the chanting.
Well, I'd be interested to hear from them. Is what I'd love to hear from that point of view. And so, as you never know, we might get that caller on.
Yeah, from my experience being on the sides, I've been there when I wanted to chant. I've got up and chanted, and immediately been told to sit down by older members. That are in there.
Yeah, I see it myself. I do see it. Like in the press box in the West Stands, like there's people that stand up in the rows in front of the press box, which makes it difficult for me to see sometimes as I'm trying to type my work. But I'm never going to tell those people to sit down, because I always see it as their right. But they are then very quickly told to sit down, either by a steward or by a fan who's further along. And from this perspective, I've never personally seen it be a young supporter that tends to turn them down. I'm not saying that is always going to be the case, of course, but just from personal experience of what I've experienced in the West End, like that's where I've seen it. Tyer, I'm conscious of the time, and I had a message from the missus saying I forgot we've got a surveyor coming around shortly. So
can I make one quick?
Very quick point. I want to get Martin on the call as well. So
it's just on the ballot system. I tried to get tickets last year, and when you join these queues, it's like going for Oasis tickets and all the rest of it. You chuck it in a queue, the thing crashes and all the rest of it. So the ballot ID, I can see the point, is trying to reduce the amount of bots. I have no problem with that. The problem is these other ticket exchange sites where they sell them online via GoGo and all the rest of it, inflated prices. Well, you can blatantly see the seat price, the seat number, and all the rest of it when you go through to purchase the tickets. That stuff needs to stop. That's where the club needs to go onto them sort of sites and start cancelling them tickets and then cancelling them memberships.
It seems
because a
obvious
lot of
to
them
do
are
it, doesn't
sold
it?
on there for like
Easy
very
to be able
inflated
to
prices.
identify it. It seems like it would be easy to see it and stop it. So I think you ask a fair question. It might be a question I'll be able to put to somebody as well. And I'm going to be speaking to some people about the ticketing situation soon. So I take on board that point. If you, Tyer, send me a message on social media afterwards with all that kind of info, if you like, and I'll collate it, because I am going to be speaking to, all anonymously, of course, and I'll be speaking to some people about it.
All right, what link shall I use for that?
On Twitter or Instagram at the Gooner Talk TV, or
I don't have Twitter or Instagram.
Email. If you go onto the about page of the channel, there's an email there as well.
Lovely, I'll find it and I'll get you.
Perfect. Thanks, mate. Thanks, Tyer. I appreciate your time and your honesty. Thank you, mate.
No worries. Take care.
Take care. Lovely stuff. Final caller today. We've got Martin. How you doing, Martin? You good? You well?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you, Tom. And yourself?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Are you a season ticket holder, Martin, at all? Have been a season ticket holder?
I've not been since George Graham was the manager.
Wow. Okay. Is there a specific reason behind that you're happy to share, or?
Yeah. Well, actually, basically, thanks to Arsenal, because of an advert in the programme, I became a referee back in the 70s for about, oh God, I don't know, till the mid 90s, I guess.
Yeah.
I had refereed at Highbury.
Wow. What was the game?
It was a youth floodlit cup match between Arsenal and Ipswich.
Amazing.
And in the Arsenal lineup was Michael Thomas, Martin Keown, Tony Adams, Gus Cedar, David Rocastle, Niall Quinn. If I can find your email address on the about, I've still got the programme.
Amazing.
So
send me some pictures. I'd love to see them. I really would. So
Tony Adams had actually played in the first team at the time as well.
Of course he did. Yeah. Incredible record.
No, I mean he'd already made his first team debut.
Yeah, of course. No, I know what you meant.
Yeah.
You just listened, obviously, to Tyer talking there. And
I thought he raised a very good point about the corporate people.
Yeah.
Now, this was sorry, I'm popping bubble wrap.
Sorry, mate. I have that obsession as well. Go on.
Yeah. Your big thing about the tourist fan.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with tourist fans who are invested in the club.
Sure.
And I don't know how much of a problem this might be at Arsenal, but I know back in the day there was issues with it. Is that when people come to London as a tourist and they want to go and see a football match, they somehow manage to get hold of a ticket, perhaps.
Yeah.
So there's a delineation between a tourist fan, someone who's invested in the club, and a tourist who just wants to watch a football match.
True. It's a fair delineation to make. I mean, obviously, they get those tickets usually through touts outside the ground. Yeah.
Exactly. And, I'd had a rider that I don't know whether this is how big of a problem this is with the club at all. But the other thing I was going to touch on was this whole membership thing. That you have to be a member to be able to apply for the ballot. And, what are you actually getting for your 50 or 60 quid, whatever it costs? You get 10% off a merch and the ability to apply for a ticket on the ballot.
Yeah.
Well, you've got to buy a bloody lot of merch to get your 60 quid or whatever it is back.
Yeah.
I mean, I usually get one of the shirts each year. So, but
you save like
having said that, yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, there's never going to be a perfect system given the demand there is for tickets. But it just seems that in some respects, you're being fleeced for 50 quid just for the privilege of being able to apply for a ticket because you get nothing else for it.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And the membership thing is an issue for me because silver memberships are very expensive, more expensive than red memberships. And there are fans out there that last season, the season before last, were buying tickets on their membership or trying to get tickets in the ballot and weren't successful at all throughout like a number of games they applied for. So they'd effectively bought a membership and not gone to a game. So they paid for the privilege of being able to try and get a ticket and then not being able to get one throughout the season, which you look at and go, I feel like what a measure of goodwill would be if you're a Red member and you've applied, let's say, for at least 10 to 15 ballots throughout the season, you've been unsuccessful in all of them, that you should be refunded the price of your membership. I think that would be a fair.
That would be very fair.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, I think the day after the PSG game, you were saying about there was lots of tickets on the exchange.
Yes.
Did they actually open that up to non-members?
Not yet. Not as far as I'm aware. I believe they were just opened up to people that applied for the ballot and weren't successful in it.
Yeah. See, so you're immediately reducing your target audience for people who are able to go for those tickets.
Yes.
By restricting it.
Yes, and obviously for the PSG game, sorry, those were I was talking about for the Shakhtar Donetsk game. The PSG game, it went on to general, I think, on the day of the game, and it wasn't really wildly publicised. I only found out about it because Darren Arsenal tweeted about it, so I only saw it there, and I know a lot of people ended up getting some tickets. I think it was only like I think it was just over 100 tickets maybe, but obviously they did all go, but it took a bit of time, and the fact it went on to general sale was a bit of a red flag for me. Because it shows you that there must be a lot of season ticket holders at the moment that are giving up their seats onto the exchange, which is, the club have done well to encourage them to do that by putting things in place. Because what they've done is if you don't go to a game as a season ticket holder on a number of occasions and don't put your ticket up on the exchange, you will lose your season if you don't on a number, which is a good incentive. But
it means you might get your season ticket. It means you might get your season ticket before you retire.
Maybe, which is never going to happen. But it is what it is. I'm in a privileged position anyway, Martin, at the moment, so I'm very fortunate. But I think with the whole ticketing side of it, like, it's not perfect. I think the ballot is a fairer way to give tickets to people that want to go to games and can't sit at 10 a.m. in the morning on a queue because they teach or they're in an NHS or they're in a job that stops them from being able to do that. But I think people are being, sadly, a lot of people are unsuccessful in getting those tickets. But then there's also an element of the demand. The demand for tickets from people that aren't season ticket holders are incredibly high.
Yeah, it's oversubscribed. It's ridiculous.
It's massively oversubscribed. And people will moan and say, well, I bought tickets when we were playing rubbish football and finishing 8th. Why do these people that are just getting tickets now because we're doing well, like, why on earth would, we get lesser treatment? Why should we get less of a chance to get tickets than somebody that only wants to go when we're winning? And so that I would obviously empathise with you, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter because anyone's entitled to buy a ticket if they've got the money to buy a ticket whenever they want to buy a ticket. That's just the reality of capitalism, I suppose. But
I remember back in the day turning up at the turnstiles and just rocking up and going in. So
I think that when it comes down to the ticket side of things, the ballot can be improved. I think there can be a cool down period. And what do you make, Martin, as and take this with respect, as one of our older supporters as well? Of course, you heard what Tyer was saying about fans of the older generations telling fans to sit down because they can't. What was your feeling when he was saying that?
I can understand both sides of that argument because having sort of played sport pretty much all my sort of youth and adult life, my knees and ankles are basically cattle trucked.
Yeah.
So standing for any length of time is not what I would prefer to do. But people stand up at football. I mean, I grew up standing up at football, and stood up in the Leppings Lane end at Hillsborough when we lost to Sunderland in the cup semi-final.
Less said about that, the
better. Yeah. Well, that was a long time before it all kicked off. But no, I can see exactly where the older fan would be coming from. I mean, I don't know really. It's all part of the atmosphere, isn't it? I think if I was there, the discomfort would probably be overridden by the adrenaline, perhaps, of the occasion. The atmosphere,
of course. So
So
yeah, I see where Tyer was coming from. I also have to empathise with those fans as well because
yeah,
as the screen says, the messages come up before the game saying not everybody can stand, and that has
stand
to be
up, yeah.
respected. And there are season ticket holders, the allocation or the seating and the location of the Ashburton Army can only really be there because, if you're going to move them, you're then going to start taking up people's season tickets. And who's got the right to tell who should be giving up their season tickets for that? I'm not sure anyone can. So they're going to have to go into an area where there's not season ticket holders. It's just... it's very difficult, I think, to find the balance that fits everyone, and you're never going to be able to do that. There's never going to be
all the time the demand is as high as it is. There's always someone that's going to be unsatisfied. So it's just really making the best of whatever system you come up with.
Indeed. I think can be improved. I think there can be cool down periods for people that are successful in the ballot so other people get a chance. I think that Ty's example of a rolling season ticket, I mean, why should it be that fans can hold on to a season ticket for 60 years and not give it up? And let's be honest, it's, people are in that queue and this is going to sound really dark, but people in that queue are waiting for, sadly, those people to pass away almost to allow those
You've almost got to be left a season ticket in someone's will.
And this is what I'm saying is like, and that happens. Like season tickets are then passed down to people. Like they do get passed down. I know of it happening. So it never kind of churns. That churn never necessarily happens. So, but then the idea of Arsenal implementing all of a sudden, just imminently, that they're going to say in 5 years' time, we're then going to have a 5-year rolling season ticket plan where you have to apply for those season tickets. That would cause absolute uproar. It would cause. I can't imagine the amount of uproar. And then, of course, there's also the argument that if you then go and do that system, obviously you've got people that have spent tens of thousands of pounds on tickets over the last 50 years and will say, I've invested so much money in this. I was planning, of course, maybe to hand that ticket down to, my son or daughter, and I can no longer do that because of this rolling thing. And also, there's no guarantee that the next group that come in for that rolling season ticket, of course, as well, are going to see any more or less than those people. It could even be worse. There's no way. It's almost a gamble. So, it's...
I mean, they could be handing it down to someone who's not really that interested.
Indeed, exactly. And then that could be a person that, as Tyzer was talking about previously, they could be someone who ends up selling it on to a corporate, person that's coming in. It's really difficult, and to find that balance is near impossible. Martin, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you, and thank you so much for sharing your stories.
And you, sir.
Really enjoyed that. So thank you so much.
Oh, fellow Medway Gooner boy. Maybe you aren't anymore. But,
I'm not Medway anymore, but I'll always be a Medway boy at heart.
So.
Indeed. Oh, brilliant.
I live round the corner from Peeny Ween.
Oh, really? Of course.
I don't know him, but I know where he lives.
Yeah. I haven't. We haven't heard from Peeny Ween in a long time. I know he's had a lot going on. But if he is listening, I hope you're doing well, my friend, and get in touch soon. But thank you, Martin. Really appreciate your time.
No problem at all.
Thank you very much. Just again, a highlight of the fantastic wealth of knowledge and variety in our community that we've got here. It's great. I've got 5 minutes to give TJR a second chance, and then we're going to wrap things up. Let's see if the internet sorted itself out. Do we have liftoff? Good stuff.
Yeah, we do, I think. I'm all right. I'm not breaking up this time. I'm not.
No, mate, you're not breaking up. You sound clear. Great. You're all good.
Everything's plugged in. Everything's cool. Everything's small. Yeah, I live around the corner from Peeny Ween. Sounds like a euphemism for something.
It does, doesn't it? But it's actually a real thing, believe it or not. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say some things, but again, a lot of that got covered. The waiting for someone to die thing is in Australia. There's the MCC, which is the MCG, which is the cricket, and literally. I reckon 5 or 6 of my friends at birth, their dads signed them up to be on the waiting list to be on MCC member. And that's how sort of bleak it is in parts of Australia for memberships for things, which is why I think a lot of the away fans, find their way into away areas and there's more passion. It's a very different thing. There's less privilege. There's more openness to new experiences, and it's not about tourism, but it's about just excitement and novelty, which is sort of what a lot of people want in sport. You want to see something that you wouldn't be able to experience otherwise. The prices is one thing. That's probably something that's been covered, but it's what I was going to say before is I've been on the corporate side of things.
Yeah.
And when I was playing music, that was one time years and years ago. And you get into the box and you feel like you're, King Almighty, whatever.
Yeah.
But there's so many people there that are just there because they're, their office has a thing, or they're doing it to try and impress clients and whatever. And that's part of the game, really. And it's not a lot you can do about that. For the other side of it, in American sports, which is probably more work experience for me, it was people have season tickets and they get passed down. But every time, typically, you change stadium, you have to re-up and you have to change things and you have to do that. And I think the cycle changes based on who's running the place. So the Cronkies will have an American model. It'll be whatever money they can make, whoever they can attract that they think will benefit them, rather than the competition or so on and so forth.
Yes.
So it's what can you do? Not a lot.
Well, that's the thing is that, but some people seem to think that there is a lot that we can do, and so much so that there's a real energy about how frustrated they are with it. But is it just anger for the sake of anger sometimes?
It may be, there's needs to be an outlet. Like I remember when there were protests against the Cronkies and things like that.
Yeah.
If the ticket system's wrong, I understand bringing that up in, general meetings and things like that. But I don't think people are going to be, leaving the stadium at 45 minutes because, they're being charged $45 and it's happening everywhere as well. Like Fulham, I think they got rid of their disabled tickets or concession tickets basically to build a swimming pool effectively, which is absurd.
Right.
Villa have their highest tickets of all time and their fans aren't happy with that.
Their Champions League prices are absolutely insane. Yeah.
Exactly. Mental. And I think it's also, as I said, it's a novelty for certain fans and it's excitement. So the Southampton atmosphere is going to be a little bit drab unless you're a huge Rambo fan. And in that case, you're probably mixed emotions, which is probably what a lot of the crowd was. PSG are a lot more of a lifestyle brand than they are a football club these days. And if Mbappe was there, I think it would have been totally different.
Football is going a certain way. Obviously, it's been going that way for a long, long time, and it's not the case of it's the club round the corner, and you see everybody at the same game. Everybody on your row, and they're always the same every single week. Those days are gone. And I know there's a romantic element to it that people would love to try and get back. The reality is that's not going to happen. It's not it's not controversial. It's just counting. The amount of people that want to go to games, the size of the club, the globalization of it all. It leads to this era. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but it's just tough. It really is. And I know some people listening to this won't like that, but that's the reality of it.
The other reality is that where it's actually heading to is online creators such as yourself, mate. There's a lot of decent intellectual Arsenal stuff out there. And I won't bring up TalkSport, but there's there's a lot of good analysis out there.
Hey, this goes up on TalkSport, mate. So it's not
I don't want to
No, I'm just saying that, that's the point. Is it brings I like to think that we're bringing balance in a way to some of the less cognitively aware stuff that I do have to listen to Jamie Ara spew about, for instance. But I just kind of, in my own sense, look at this whole area of sport and the sport in general. Like, people have real issues with certain aspects of it, especially like the online element of it, especially like the makeup of the stadium to a degree. You probably remember the show that I'm talking about when I did that show, talking about the atmosphere before, and we had a couple of young guys come on that sadly said some really pretty horrible things. One of them was saying about they wanted 80% of the stadium to be English. Like, that's just mental in 2023. I think it was at the time to be saying it. It's absolutely absurd. It's crazy, And they were saying, I want the most of it. And I was like, well, put a number on it. How much of the stadium do you want to be English? And they were like, I don't know, 75, 80%. I'm like, where do you come up with these figures from? Like, it's like your street where you live won't be 80% English anymore. That's just life. That's just globalization. That's just change, and that's fine. Like, it is a xenophobia that exists within so many people. Sadly, there's a fear, and it's a strange
it's also
one.
a bit crazy regarding the Arsenal fan base and the history of Arsenal. You know, you've got people like Ian Wright and Rocky, and even again to the creator side, Clive is brilliant. Who's someone I would have never discovered if I didn't go for Arsenal. You know, it's not about race or politics or even gender or sexuality. It's about understanding, you know, that football is a, you know, unifying force. It's not something to, you know, bring a flag and set someone on fire like you're, you know, in Italy like an ultra or something. It's a very different thing in England. And Australia is the same. It's Australia. In where I live, Melbourne, we've got the AFL and we've got, I think, 12 teams in the one city, and they all get along, but there's some huge rivalries, but they all fall to the wayside when it comes to actual real issues. So it's of all the things that don't matter, football matters the most. So it's understanding where to grab your enjoyment and you know, how not to get stressed out by Arsenal.
Well, I don't think that's ever going to be entirely possible, but I know what you mean. Tim, thank you so much for your time, mate. I really appreciate it.
Cheers, Tom.
Have a fantastic rest of your day. See you soon.
You too.
That brings us to the end of today's phone-in show. An hour and a half on a Tuesday, Wednesday? Wednesday. It's Wednesday, isn't it? Yes, Wednesday morning. Thank you so much for all of our callers and contributors today. I think we've generated quite a very good discussion during an international break lull. If you could ever be so kind to drop a like before you leave us. I don't think I mentioned that at the beginning of the show, so we may not have a chance of hitting 1,000 likes, but I hope that we do, and I hope that you can help us out today. So please do drop a like. I will see you all tomorrow, of course, bright and early, 8 a.m. as usual. And have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. Let us know any of your thoughts on today's topics in the comment section down below. And as always, up the Arsenal.